Today we are going to learn how to paint non-metallic metal copper using the overbrush technique on the Knight Desecrator.
That the entirety of the cosmos is accessible through each and every individual's mind, connecting to the great mind, the great spirit.
Welcome back to the channel, collectors. So today we are going to be learning how to paint the non-metallic metal copper, which is on the exhaust pipes on the Knight Desecrator. This video is part of a greater series where I cover how to paint the entire Knight Desecrator using the overbrush technique. You can check out many of the videos, links in the description below. As mentioned, this series will be using a lot of the overbrush technique. If you need a recap on the overbrush technique, you can check out our overbrushing video right here. So, without further ado, if you're ready to paint some copper, let us begin. Alright, so now the exhaust has been primed in Krylon brown. We're going to do a very heavy overbrush on the initial highlights using Vallejo model color wood grain. As you guys can see, just be very liberal with this step and you can move on to the next stage. So in the next stage, what we're going to do, we are going to add in a little bit of Chimera red oxide. Alright, so as you can see, you want to make sure that the highlights are more heavy on the top and wider and more skinny towards the bottom. Try to do this pretty liberally for the initial stages. Alright, so now adding in a little bit of Vallejo model color German camo beige. What we're going to do is to create an extreme highlight. I know that this extreme highlight might be a little bit stuck for now, but don't worry, because we are going to tone it down with a wash and a glaze of some contrast paints later. At this stage, as you guys can see in some of the exhausts, what I'm currently doing is that it's wider on the top because more light is being captured from the top. I'm also incorporating multiple highlights. Okay, so now using a smaller brush, this is Vallejo model color ivory. I'm being very selective, and what I would give you guys as a tip is to make sure that the shape of the highlight is like a inverted triangle. So I know that as a cylinder you should highlight all the way down, but what I'm trying to emulate is that I'm trying to exaggerate that there is a lot more light on the top to sort of like hint that there is a strong unfiltered light coming from the top down direction. Okay, right now we're going in with a wash and shade of, this is contrast dark oak flash. I find dark oak flash really nice to give this coppery sheen. Just to give everyone a little tip is that this glaze of dark oak flash is to increase the saturation of the highlights. And right now I'm also working on the transitions. I'm placing an additional layer on the transitions to create that area of saturation. Now with a smaller overbrush, what I'm doing is that I'm going back with Vallejo model color ivory to pick on some of the details, as you guys can see, to re-emphasize the highlights. I want to make sure that these highlights are solid and there are no gaps and striations in between. Okay. Okay, that was a little bit too extreme, but let's try to modulate that a little bit more. As you guys can see, very slight touches, and always remember the shape of the highlight. Right now I'm mixing in a little bit of dark oak flash with ivory to give it sort of like, it's almost like a glaze, but it's not transparent. So I would call it maybe more towards a layer. Yep. Okay. So as you guys can see, it's a very back and forth process. Right now I'm using the same colors which I'm going to be using for the exhaust pipes on the front of the carapace. I'm using Vallejo model color pale blue grey. Now moving on, I'm using a little bit of Vallejo model color ivory for the extreme highlights for the steel pipes. Now with a wash of Agrax Earthshade, I didn't use Raglan Flash Shade here because I wanted to create some distinction. I find that Raglan Flash Shade is a little bit too red and might confuse the viewer on this. So what do you think about this? Let me know in the comments below. Are there other techniques or materials you want to see me paint? Just leave me a comment too. So in the next video, we'll be painting the head of the Chaos Knight Desecrator. This video will be focusing on how to blend organic areas, create some OSL, and rehash on some of the Overbrush NMM techniques we have learned previously. I'd like to take this time to thank my patrons for allowing me to do this. Because of my patrons and some new patrons, I'm able to keep doing this, and I'm able to produce videos like this consistently so that we get to become better miniature painters together. I hope you support me by becoming a patron, and check out this month's exclusive Patreon video where I teach you guys how to paint non-metallic metal gold using the overbrush technique and share more hints on how you can take your overbrush technique to the next level. However, if you can't become a patron, that's okay too. I'd like to appreciate you and your time for watching all the way to the end. If you could, please like and subscribe and all the other stuff because it really helps the channel a lot, helps me a lot. And I hope to see you in the next video. See you!